Hello there, I'm back. I haven't been shooting much content the last few months, but as I said in my last video, I have been working on the boat. The footage I have is some from the rebedding and reglassing of the hatches that I did. They were both leaking, and the glass, or the old plexiglass, was all crazed and didn't look very nice, so I figured I would just redo it. Of course, I had to start by taking the frames out and then clean them up like really well, and that's really important to get a good seal afterwards. So I used a screwdriver, a chisel, the sandpaper, brush, acetone, everything I could to get it like as clean as possibly possible. And that's the part that took the longest, actually. It was the hardest job. And then I had to reapply the sealant, and when you apply that sealant, you apply so you think you have enough, and then you double that. You need to use enough. I used the Sikaflex 295, which is UV resistant and intended to use for glass or from mounting windows and stuff, so hopefully that'll be good enough. I know there's other options on the market, but this should do the job. And of course I used masking tape where I was afraid that I would spill over on the frame or on the deck, or it was a really messy job. Now I used acrylic glass or plexiglass, and I could have used polycarbonate instead. Polycarbonate is known to be a little bit stronger, and it doesn't crack the same way plexiglass does, but it does bend, so I was a little bit afraid that people would step on it and that would bend the glass and that would ruin the seal, but I don't really know. I tried to Google it, but hopefully I made a good decision. But let me know in the comments if you have experience using polycarbonate instead of acrylic or plexiglass on your hatches. The big one I'm doing right here is actually a little bit too thin. It should have been 12 millimeters, or almost half an inch thick, instead of 8 millimeters, so I'll probably redo that next summer. But on the other hatch it was fine to use 8 millimeters. I got them pre-cut. I ordered them, so I got the right width and length on both of them. I just had to round the corners with a saw and some sandpaper to make them round and nice. So that looks pretty spiffy, and it's all shiny and provides a whole lot of light inside. And then as soon as the sealant had dried, I needed to use a knife to cut off the excess that had flown into or was covering over the masking tape that I put on. So I cut that carefully off and took off the excess and removed the masking tape. And then I also tightened the bolts another maybe half a turn to get like a really firm and good seal in between the frame and the deck. And that worked out really well. Like, there is no leaks whatsoever now, so that should hold for many years. And of course, reapplying all the hardware too, I used the Sikaflex and all the holes and everything to make sure that everything stays watertight. It's a really messy job, but it ended up being, or I didn't mess up any place where you could see it, so. And then of course I had to drill new holes to mount the hinges. Again, I didn't use Sikaflex on that because that would just be too messy, but I used clear silicone. I read online that since acrylic glass or plexiglass is a plastic or oil-based product, then it's actually okay to use regular silicone on like stuff like this at least. So hopefully that'll turn true. So it's see-through, so it doesn't matter, because from the underneath you'll actually see that sealant, so it wouldn't be very nice if it was black and all over the place. And then of course tighten all the bolts and everything again, and there we are, brand new hatch. Or I had to put the handles on themselves too. As I said, I probably have to redo this hatch because the glass I bought was a little bit too thin, so I have to go through that whole process once again. But then of course I only have to do the window and not the frame itself, so it'll still be another big job. A messy job, really. It's not hard, and I do recommend doing it. Look at how clear it is. I mean, you can see the sky like it's outside. So that's a huge improvement. Another job I've done is to start attaching two midship cleats. I only have cleats in the bow and the stern, so I needed some midships too to have a spring line, or to use spring lines. So of course I had to measure up first to get them symmetric on both sides and get them where I wanted them to be, about the widest point, a little bit aft of the widest point on the boat. I drilled some pilot's holes first, where the bolts are going to go through, and afterwards I made some bigger holes that are about double the width or double the size of the bolts themselves. The reason is that, of course, the deck is a sandwich construction with balsa in the middle, so I want to avoid any water intruding into that balsa and start rotting, because then you can get delamination and everything. So I drilled a big hole, or two holes for each cleat, and then from the underneath I glassed it in with some glass fiber and some epoxy. Both to give it a little bit of additional strength, but also just to seal up those holes, so that when that had dried I could pour some running or liquid epoxy into the hole and let that harden and dry out. And once that's cured, then I can drill the new holes right in the middle of those bigger holes for the bolts themselves. And then I'll have a backing plate of aluminum on what's inside you see now. And then of course I use Sikaflex as well to seal it up. So here I'm pouring in the freshly mixed epoxy, which I left to cure for several days, and by the time I had time to finish the job, then winter had come, so I'm actually going to do the installation themselves in the springtime when it gets a little bit warmer, because I can use the Sikaflex again. So that should be alright. That'll be pretty much it for this just short episode, and you know a little bit about the hatches I've done. I have several projects coming up this spring, and 2025 will definitely be the year that I'll be sailing the boat, which I'm really looking forward to. I have ordered some new sails that will be delivered in February, so I can't wait for that, and I'll see you soon. Thank you. Bye.